We are glad you are here in person and watching at home. We are an open and inclusive liberal faith organization. Our members follow diverse paths to find meaning and purpose. We are united by our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all, and by the responsibility to express our faith in acts of justice and compassion. My name is Lynn Henderson, and I have been a member since 2010. We especially welcome any visitors who are with us today. And if you'd like to do so and are visiting for the first or second time, please stand and tell us your name and what brought you here today. Any visitors? Okay. No strangers among us. And everyone is invited to congregate in the lobby after the service to meet our members and get to know us a little bit better. We begin with lighting the chalice, so please say the chalice lighting words in your order of service with me.
We light this flame chalice to illuminate the world we see. In our search for truth, may we be just. In our search for justice, may we be loving.
It's not
In
coming.
loving, may we find peace.
We've even been thwarted by a remote candle now. I think the batteries.
Switched on the bottom.
Yeah, that's the problem. Somebody's left it on the bottom. Let me try again. Yeah. When all else fails, try the button. Our music today will be by Mike Alec, and we will begin with some centering music from him. Thank you. Our guest speaker today is Reverend Kathleen Panning. She describes herself as a pastor's pastor, which I found very interesting. She runs a company teaching women of faith ways to have a meaningful and inspiring ministry. Reverend Panning was ordained in 1980 as a pastor of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. She has pastored many small rural congregations and large urban ones as well. And she's host of Aflame Ministry on radio and TV. She will help us today to see how our faith can help us to weather the many changes that are surely to come. And she has our opening words.
Wonderful to be here with you today. My husband, Gary Brandenburg, is also here with me today. So that's the other stranger in your midst today. Couple of opening thoughts. Change often brings tension and worry to us. So a couple of interesting quotes about worry. Don't use your energy on worry. Use it to believe and find a way. By Karen Salomonson. Anxiety does not empty tomorrow of its sorrows. It only empties today of its strength. By Charles Spurgeon. Our anxiety does not come from thinking about the future, but from wanting to control it. Khalil Gibran. Peace is the result of retraining your mind to process life as it is, rather than as you think it should be. Wayne Dwyer. And one of my favorites, no amount of anxiety makes any difference to anything that is going to happen. Alan Watts. So some things to think about as I talk to you a little while in Zoom here.
Thank you. Thank you. And it will not be long now. Next thing. Anne Mara Lindbergh wrote, only in growth, reform, and change, paradoxically enough, is true security to be found. And one whose words we will hear often today, Bob Dylan, wrote, may you have a strong foundation when the winds of changes shift. And that strong foundation can be our faith. And Reverend Panning will explore that concept with us. So once again, if you will welcome Reverend Panning.
When I thought about change, some of the first things that came to mind were the words from Scripture, Ecclesiastes 3. You'll recognize these words. For everything there's a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. That passage from Ecclesiastes is one that I often had requested to be used at funerals while I was a pastor, superseded only by the more familiar 23rd Psalm as familiarity. And the reason those words are really so very well known goes back to Pete Seeger. In 1959, he set those words to music, and it was first recorded in 1962 by the Lamplighters. I dug some history up on this, and it became a #1 on the charts in 1965 with the recording by the Byrds. It was also an international hit. The words of woman wisdom, who is the speaker in Ecclesiastes, and the words of the song both tell us that there's a lot of change that goes on in life. And it's the kind of change that happens over and over and over again, except for one change, our own birth and our own death. In other words, change is a reality. Apoptosis is the process of programmed cell death in our bodies. It's the way our bodies get rid of old, worn out, and damaged cells and replace them with new ones. And it's a process that if it doesn't happen properly, we develop things like cancer or Alzheimer's disease. But if the process doesn't happen at all, we die. We need that change. And in fact, it keeps going so much that every couple of years, and I've forgotten exactly how many years it is, but every couple of years, we're a whole new person. There's nothing left of us that was there before. That's interesting to think about. That process of change, as long as it's working the way it should be, isn't one that most of us spend any time thinking about. Many people don't even know what's happening at all. But there are plenty of other changes that we are aware of, and many of them we get upset about. For those of us as we're getting a little older, it seems that we have sometimes a little more difficulty with some changes than others. And there are lots of changes happening in our world and in our lives. And they're coming at us faster these days than ever before. In early December, my husband and I went to visit family in Wisconsin, which is where we're both originally from. We flew, so we didn't have to go driving some circuitous route and avoid I-40, and because of winter weather. And so we had to rent a car when we got there. Now, I drive a 2022 model year vehicle. The vehicle we rented was a different make, but it was also either a 24 or 25 year vehicle. So I was driving, I got into the car and, checked the mirrors and just kind of did a quick scan so I knew where the windshield wipers were, those kinds of things. And then started the car and realized that gear shift lever, it wasn't there. There was a dial. Okay, so I figured I can deal with that. We started out of the airport and it was cold, like below zero wind chills going on. And so I started looking for the button or dial for the temperature control and defrost and the airflow in the car, and they weren't there. Nothing, just this big screen. And so I was very glad my husband was there because he could figure out this touch screen as to where these things were, because it would have been extremely distracting to try and drive and not know how to work that stuff. That's just 2 to 3 years of change for cars. Almost a decade ago, I got a chance to watch a recording of a class that Dr. Peter Diamandis did. He's one of the founders of Singularity University in California. It's a place, if you don't know where it is, what it is, where CEOs from Fortune 500 companies go there to learn about all the new technology that's coming out and how to implement this and get things changed in their companies. And even then, about a decade ago, Dr. Diamandis was talking about how the pace of change in our world is changing. He started out with this graph and it was just a nice gradual incline. And then he said that we're coming to the point where that gradual incline is curving and it's about to go vertical, straight up. And we are closer to that vertical now than when he did that class. The impact of all of these changes is, some of them are great, but not all of them. And these changes affect not just technology that we use, but also our culture, society as a whole, economics, politics, medicine, everything. And we need to carefully consider and evaluate these changes, how they impact us, yes, but how they might impact others as well. Things that are not the way they have always been aren't necessarily bad. You know, there are a lot of things happening on all kinds of levels these days, personal to international, that the results of these things get people nervous, and many people have a hard time with those changes. The push for deporting nonviolent immigrants and banning books are just two of those evidence of how people get nervous about some of these changes. And our resistance to change can have an effect on our personal lives as well as on our communities. As I mentioned, as we get a little older, our ability to do things that we've been used to doing very much on our own and in our own way doesn't always work so well anymore. And we might need a little assistance. And some people are rather resistant to that assistance. I speak from personal experience with an older family member, my mother, for one, and some of my own resistance at times as well. That resistance to change can affect not only our own safety, but also family members and those who care about us. As people of faith in God's spirit universe, whatever language you use, how then can our faith help us with all of these changes and help us deal with those? My first thought as a pastor went to words from Jesus in his Sermon on the Mount. And that's from chapter 6 in the Gospel of Matthew, where he says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your span of life? And why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, you of little faith? Therefore do not worry, saying, what will we eat? Or what will we drink? Or what will we wear? For it is the Gentiles who strive for all these things, and indeed your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But strive first for the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these will be given to you as well. So do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring worries of its own. Today is trouble enough. Today's troubles is trouble enough for today." Wise words from Jesus. We know that his question, can any of you add a single hour to your span of life by worrying? We know that the answer is no. And in fact, a lot of worrying can take away far more than just 1 hour, can take years off our lives. But different personalities have different ways of dealing with worry and change. I've been trained in a personal inventory called How to Fascinate. I mentioned this when I was here in March of last year. It's an inventory that helps us understand how people see us as fascinating. And there are basically what the founder of this calls 7 languages of fascination. And the inventory helps us understand how somebody sees me as fascinating and how other people are fascinating, but also how we each deal with change. Knowing this helps us know ourselves, but also how to work with other people who find it difficult to change. For example, there are, I said, these 7 languages, and they're called 7 advantages in the personality inventory. And one of those is called innovation. Now, someone who has, back up a second here. We each have all 7 of those advantages, but ones are primary and another ones are secondary. And by combining the primary and secondary, you get 49 different personality archetypes in this inventory. So if someone has innovation as their primary or secondary advantage, that person loves creativity. They are somebody who likes change, sometimes just for the sake of something different. They get bored with the same stuff all over and over and over again. On the other hand, somebody with the primary or secondary advantage of trust can become locked into the predictable patterns and stubbornly resist any change. They're the stuck in the rut kind of people when they are that way. But those folks they love the comfort of consistency and things being the same. They're the kind of people who can do repetitive jobs over and over and love it. We need some of those folks. They're rock solid, they're dependable. But when it comes to introducing change to them, have to go a little bit slower. And the best thing to do is to tie what's new to the past that they already love and find predictable and trustworthy. What this means is that part of being a person of faith is knowing how we deal with change, but also respecting how other people deal with change. Shoving change at people, especially those with a lot of that trust type of advantage, usually results in being met with a lot of resistance, even a brick wall, even when the proposed changes are good and beneficial to that person and to others. I recently read the comment that it takes as much energy to worry as it does to be grateful. That's interesting. Unlike worry, gratitude adds value to our lives and possibly, even probably, extends the lifespan. Gratitude helps people of all personalities see the good and value in things, including changes. It helps make change easier for everyone. And on top of that, gratitude's just plain fun. And it has a lot of health benefits to it. When I was here in March, I talked about some of the research from Dr. Robert Emmons at UC Davis and what he has learned and shown about health benefits from gratitude. There's a website. It's called positiveprime.com. It's all about helping people be happier and more grateful. And in that website, there are what are called sessions. You watch one of those sessions for as little as 3 minutes. And it has been proven that that increases a person's happiness and peace of mind for 6 to 8 hours. That's powerful stuff. These sessions also help people improve their relationships, sleep better, have more energy, be healthier in many respects. And all of those things make it easier for people to deal with change. If you're interested in that website, there's a 10-day free trial for it. So that's, anybody can do that. It's low cost after that. I do have an affiliate link if you are interested. It just helps them track that you came from me type of thing. But it's very you need to use that for anything. So it's like $20 a month if you want to do it monthly to cancel anytime, or $200 a year, which is basically 2 months free. These are 2 tools that I know of. There are many others that are available. I use them and talk about them because I trust them, for one, and they're consistent with my faith, for another. They are loving ways to help other people with change and to worry less, to find the good things in change, to evaluate changes. My faith says that I am called to love God with my whole being and to love everybody else as I love myself. Now, quite frankly, folks, loving God totally and loving everybody else totally, and even loving myself totally, sometimes gets hard. The world and our culture at times seem to demand that we worry about people, about cultural changes, about the latest news, the economy, what's going to happen, when whatever happens. But like Jesus said, worry doesn't solve anything or make our lives in any way better. There are a lot of changes that we need to face, both ones that we see as good and those that we are not so sure of. We can do that, and we can help others face change more easily, with far less personal stress and with less conflict between people on all levels, when we use tools like the How to Fascinate assessment or positive prime. As I said, I know these are not the only good tools out there. There's all positive psychology and all kinds of other things that are available. If you have other tools that you know about, wonderful, please share them with each other and use them. That's part of our calling as people of faith, to do that with one another. So I want to say thank you, but that's how we, approach change these days. It's how we think about ourselves and one another and the future. Carol Dweck, Dr. Carol Dweck is author and does things about the term yet or not yet. Worrying about the future is all about what isn't there yet, but it's worrying in a negative way. The power of yet also means we can change things for the good. There's always the possibility of something better to come. That's the power of yet in many other respects. So I want to say thank you for this opportunity. If you're interested in seeing something more about the 49 personality archetypes, I do have a couple of pieces of paper here with that on it, and I'm willing, you're welcome to have that. If you're interested in taking the assessment, let me know. I can do that as well. You get an immediate response from the company. It's done online. It's so simple. Have any of you ever taken that assessment? No. Okay. There are a lot of good personality assessments out there, but this one is deceptively simple. Okay. It's got less than 30 questions to it. So unlike Myers-Briggs, which is about 140 or something, 200 and some. So it's deceptively simple. And so let me know and I can help you do that. But thank you so very, very much. And I will be here for the talk back. So anybody got questions?
Now's the
comments.
time when you can
And
come up with questions.
please, if you do have a question, you're going to have to say it very loudly. My hearing is horrible, even with hearing aids. So
And you're welcome to come up to the microphone so
yeah.
people at home can see you.
I want to
If you
make
have
sure.
questions,
Yeah.
reflections on what you've just heard.
Yeah.
Reverend Panning, about your upcoming book, can you elaborate a little bit?
I'm sorry.
Your book
The book?
that you're gonna publish?
Do I have a book?
Yeah, it's gonna be published. Can you elaborate
I
a little bit
am
about it?
going to be releasing a book, hopefully in the next week or two.
Okay.
It's not on this kind of thing. It's a lot of personal reflections from ministry.
Okay.
And I do have a podcast called The Tilted Halo. So it's for all of us women of faith in leadership who know perfectly well that we're not perfect. So that's where the halo comes from. And the book is going to also be titled Tilted Halo. So that it's coming out soon. It will be on Amazon in hard copy, Kindle, and Audible. So it started as an Audible, in fact. So the hard copy is a transcription. It's not a polished, if anybody's looking for a scholarly work, it's not that, okay? It's a conversation. So that's what it is.
Anyone have thoughts?
Anybody else?
I have one on, come on. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I struggle with the thing about don't worry, lily of the valley and the bird. And I know that anxiety can paralyze us and it can take way too much time. But on the other hand, sometimes unless you become uncomfortable, you're not moved to act. And I also think it's a lot easier to hear those words if you're sitting somewhere in the middle of an economic scale, as opposed to the person that's sitting there thinking, how the hell am I going to feed my family this month? So that's my struggle with that scripture. And I don't seem to get past that.
I hear you. I mean, it seems even the people to whom Jesus spoke, when he said, don't worry about all of these things, there were a lot of very poor people who listened to him, who struggled daily to get food to eat. And I don't really, it would be wonderful to say God's going to magically feed everybody. But the idea with that is then we have a responsibility to help make sure other people do get that food when they can't on their own. And so to me, that's part of how that is supposed to work. It doesn't always work that way. That because we don't always all step up and do and be God's hands and work in those kinds of ways. So I understand, it sounds great, but it's also doesn't always work. And there are a lot of people, I think about the people in Gaza these days, they're dying of hunger and freezing to death, literally, some of them, because they're outside in tents and don't have the kind of clothing and stuff. And that's true in other parts of the world. You don't have to have a war for that to happen. So that's part of our responsibility as well, is how I understand that.
Well, that completes the thought, doesn't it?
Yeah. So.
I guess the issue there is you can't fix everything. And worrying does not fix anything, like you said in your sermon. So yes, I may still be hungry, but the worry is just taking me away from the process of finding a way to find food for my family. If I sit there and get upset about it, I'm not anywhere farther down the road than I was before. If I get up there and try to plant something or go out and ask for help or whatever, then I'm actually doing something that that gets me ahead. I was on a cruise at one time, and that makes me sound like I'm really, advantaged. I am privileged, but that's not my normal state. And they ask, what do you do when you're stressed? And I kind of had to think about that. And it was like, the things I stress over are the things that I haven't done. So what I need to do is just do the stuff that I need to do, And, George was talking about that this week. It was like, I'm feeling like this stuff is here, but maybe I should just do it, and then I wouldn't be feeling upset about it. And I also had a time when I was raising children, we didn't have a lot of money. Sometimes I'd have $10 left a few months after I paid my bills, and that was going to feed us for the next month. And I was really stressed one time, and I went outside, and there were just all these pecans all over my steps. Now, I wasn't going to feed my family for a month on pecans, but it was just a reassurance. Okay, God, this is manna. This is protein that has fallen on my steps. And since then, I had times whenever I see pecans, I've kept a bowl of them there. Just, it's going to be okay. And you have the power to make things start to be okay when you free yourself up to act.
Yeah, so you were talking about the personal aspect of that, and we were talking about kind of the corporate aspect of both, and both of those are important. When we talk about,
even in a corporate aspect,
Right.
sitting and worrying doesn't do anything.
Right.
You've got to give some.
Yeah, what can I do?
Volunteer, send some money,
Right.
whatever.
It really starts from the initial point was that energy that you use in worrying about something takes away from the energy that you should be using to find the solution.
Right. And actually, I have a sheet of quotes that has something extremely similar to that on it. So that is another way of talking about that. Anyone else?
One thing that occurred to me as you were speaking, and I'm not familiar with these archetypes, but one thing that occurred to me when you spoke about the people who don't mind doing the same repetitive job over and over and over, maybe for years and years and years and years, and they resist and are fearful of any kind of change. That brings to mind a lot to me about what we've seen politically happening. Those who have been, doing basically the same thing, and now the world, as you said, is moving vertically, and they're not.
Yeah.
And that can be a very scary thing. And the other thing I've wondered about as you're speaking is, I think there probably are people who get so mired down in worry and anxiety that it immobilizes them from being able to seek out any solutions to anything.
And when we get so mired down in worry, that to me is a time to bring in gratitude. Start looking for even the least smallest things to be grateful for. Anything that changes your perspective, it begins to change. It's not a magic cure-all for everything, but it begins to change the way we see the world. If we see the world only through the lens of worry, what's not there, what could happen? And there's a lot of things that could happen. But if that's the way we choose to see the world, like you said, Greg, we get mired in that, and we won't see the possibilities of how to move forward and to see the things that we're grateful for right now, right in front of us, which is part of living in the present rather than the past or the future as well. So all of that comes into how do we deal with change? The more we live in the present, the easier it is to deal with change too. So,
Anyone else have thoughts?
anyone else? Thank you so much,
Thank you
and
very
I
much.
will
I will papers mixed up.
have these things with me afterwards, and I don't want to make sure I'm not taking your things with me.
Okay.
Here, somewhere, I think this is my bulletin here. Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
it is. Thank you very much. And now we come to another part where we're going to think about Dylan. We will have our musical reflection from Mike, and we're so sorry that Eddie Gunn is not here with us today.
All things to
Of
have
all
a
days.
harmonica for.
Of all days that we needed Eddie.
I saw a meme this morning. It said, 80% of the things I worry about never happen, so worrying must work. I'm sure my mom lives by that one. My mom worries about things that haven't even happened. So I'm very excited about when they asked me to do Bob Dylan. I don't even have to offer it up because he's definitely one of my favorites. And that with the new movie out, there's a whole bunch of younger people that, because they love Timothy Chalamet, are going to be, introduced. And if you don't, I'm sure most of you know Dylan, but I just thought this was great. I was looking up his bio and numerous accolades: Academy Award, 10 Grammy Awards, Golden Globe Award, Kennedy Center Honors, National Medal of Arts, Presidential Medal of Freedom, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, Songwriters Hall of Fame, Pulitzer Prize, Nobel Prize. So if you don't know all that,
For poetry.
for poetry,
Yes,
yeah. A heck of a songwriter too. You know. Jerry Garcia said he gets all the props for his poetry, but his melodies are very memorable as well. So very singable in a folk way, as this one is. Come gather around, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown. Accept that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, you better start swimming or sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changin'. Come writers and critics, prophesize with your pen. Keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. Don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin. There's no telling who it's naming, for the loser now will later to win, for the times they are a-changin'. Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall. For who gets hurt is who that has stalled. There's a battle outside and it's raging. It'll soon shake your windows and rattle your walls, for the times they are a-changin'. Need a harmonica. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. The old road is rapidly aging. Please get out the new one if you can lend a hand, for the times they are a-changin'. Line it is drawn, the curse it is cast. The slow one now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. The order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last, for the times they are a-changin'.
Thank you, Mike. That was so wonderful. I was thinking about this musical reflection. And it was perfect with Reverend Panning's talk. And I wondered if you all could think about how you reacted to this song when we all wore, as Billy Joel would say, we all wore a younger man's clothes or a younger woman's clothes, and what it meant to you, and was there any line that jumped out at you? For me, the line was, "Don't criticize what you can't understand." And I had that written on the top of a lot of my school notebooks in, 9th and 10th grade. But how much could I understand that wasn't understood? I was only 15, 16 years old. But I already could see that change was coming. So I think that's a wonderful song for us to remember. Our fellowship is important to us. Please know that the contributions that you give today will help us sustain and continue to grow our congregation and to reach out to our community. Your giving affirms the commitment to each other and to our mission. And we also want to thank everyone who fills these seats on Sunday and watches online and helps in all the ways that are needed to set up the sanctuary, to film us, to make sure that we have the right hymnals. It's a team effort, and everyone appreciates all the work that you do. And if you're watching online, you will see an option for giving on your screen. So please think about taking that option and pitching in to help us out. And wait for Linda to finish up. And we'll have some announcements. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. If you look in your bulletin at the back, you'll see some announcements. First, there is a social supper that we do on Sundays. Everyone, especially visitors, is invited to attend. And Linda will let us know where you're going today.
We'll go to McAllister's, because those that want to miss the storm or whatever
And can get out.
McAllister's.
So McAllister's is in Cornelius?
Cornelius.
Cornelius, okay. And that will be shortly after the service ends today. And Movie Tuesdays.
Yeah, I just want to say, on this past Tuesday, we had 15 people go see the Bob Dylan movie.
Yay.
It was quite a bringing in the new year afternoon. And we're going to go see Baby Girl this Tuesday. It's at 12:40.
Okay, and that's at Burkdale. So if you'd like to go or have questions, you can contact Linda. And we heard earlier about the fence build yesterday in the freezing cold. And that was a success for the two babies, Bandit and Rocket. And I'm sure they were thrilled to have a fence. And for more information, you can check the Facebook page of the Heart of the Carolinas UU Ministry. The next day and the first day of the new year for Feed NC will be Thursday, January 9th. And Jim, are you still in need of volunteers?
You can never have too many volunteers.
Okay.
So yes.
So if you're able to join that day at Feed NC to slice, dice, stir, serve, sounds like an old Ronco commercial. But if you're able to help do any of those things, contact Jim. And we have an Adopt a Highway stretch along Concord Road in Davidson, and the next cleanup will be on Saturday, January 18th from 9:30 to 11. And if there's bad weather, the makeup date will be January 25th. And you can also volunteer for that by contacting our president, Jim Arnold. Next Sunday, Reverend Pat Jobe will be back with us, and he will speak about the challenges and the necessity of looking at things with fresh eyes, not only to see what must be done, but how to go about doing it, which is kind of a good follow-up to what we've talked about today. And now we will do our closing song, which is number 100 in your hymnal. It's I've got peace like a river in my soul.
I've got like 80 verses in this version, but we'll just do 4. I've got peace like a river, I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul. I got peace like a river, I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul. I got joy like a fountain, I got joy like a fountain. Joy like a fountain in my soul. I got joy like a fountain, I got joy like a fountain. I got joy like a fountain in my soul. I got love like an ocean, I got love like an ocean. Got love like an ocean in my soul. I got love like an ocean, I got love like an ocean. I got love like an ocean in my soul. I got pain like an arrow, I got pain like an arrow. I got pain like an arrow in my soul. I got pain like an arrow, I got pain like an arrow. Pain like an arrow in my soul. Listen to the first one. I got peace like a river, I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul. I got peace like a river, I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul.
Yay. And now we'll have our closing words from Reverend Panning.
Worry does not add so much as an hour to the span of our lives. Change is real. We have a choice. We have a choice. Think about that. You have the choice to choose how to live with that change, how to deal with it every single day. We are not victims of change. We have the power to do something. The way we choose to see the world, as one of my mentors lovingly said, creates the world we see. If we are afraid of change, we're in for an awful ride. But if we know that it cannot change the best in us, it cannot change the best in people unless we allow it to. And we are the architects of our own lives and our own future. Change is real. It's coming fast. But there's a lot of good here too. And, you know, we get to choose. And the person who said the way we choose to see the world creates the world we see is Barry Neil Kaufman. He created a place in Sheffield, Massachusetts called the Option Institute many, many years ago, after helping his own son along with his wife totally overcome autism, and has been a center for helping thousands of children around the world, their families work with their children the same way, and also created a program for adults to learn how to use some of those same principles that they use. And it's all based on love. It's all based on love. And the way we choose to see somebody and the way we choose to see ourselves creates the world we see. And the same is true with all that change. So we are in charge. That's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we will extinguish the chalice. So if you'll say with me your extinguishing words in your bulletin. We extinguish this chalice.
For the unpleasant truth, the war of the community, for the joy of commitment.
These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Go in peace. No more kid news.